Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres. If this is the first time you tune in, you'll want to know that this is the show that gives visibility to the top voices in consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond. We're now 180 episodes in, so do go into our website or your favorite podcast platform to entertain yourself and hopefully be educated as well with some of the industry's top voices. Remember, we are part of a family of podcasts. We have a sister podcast in the US called the CPG Guys, with over 400 episodes and 32,000 followers on LinkedIn. So do go into this show to listen to what's going on the other side of the Atlantic. Speaking of LinkedIn, we have 16,000 followers, an up-and-coming community. So remember to follow us there if you haven't yet. One of the big topics for FMCG companies, brand owners, is really that struggle to get closer to consumers. So we've seen many avenues like direct to consumer, which doesn't really happen that much anymore in FMCG. With retail media is also a way to get closer to the consumer with the data, QR codes. But what about speaking with them directly? And that's what we'll speak about in today's episode, in how WhatsApp, yes, the messaging app that I use every day, all the time, can enable brands to speak directly with their consumers. And to speak about this, we have the founder and CEO of Merx, which is a company that uses WhatsApp to enable that brand-consumer dialogue. And it's no other than their, as mentioned, founder and CEO, Pietro Cammerini. Hey, Pietro, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Daniel. Very well. How are you doing?
Very good here in a very warm Barcelona. I was just looking at the weather in London, and I think we're like 12 degrees above you.
It's actually sunny here for a change, which is great.
Well, enjoy it while it lasts. So Pietro, great to have you here. We've been chatting, and I know that we're going to be doing very cool stuff together on finding ways that WhatsApp can enhance our brand as well. So very excited about our partnership. Could you tell us a bit about what you do in the company, what's Merx about, and what your role is?
Yeah, sounds good. So as you mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Merx. And Merx is a conversational commerce platform that enables brands to engage with consumers where they already are on platforms like WhatsApp. And we use customized Gen AI models to have a hyper-personalized two-way conversation with a consumer across the entire consumer journey, from pre-sale, sale, and post-sale.
Awesome. So I know that you haven't been doing your own company forever, and you're originally Italian, but I know you have a very interesting background, not only work-wise, but more like life-wise. What happened there?
Yeah, no, I traveled quite a bit. So I'm Italian, as the name suggests. I'm from a small town called Rieti near Rome, but I've actually lived most of my life outside of Italy. So I grew up in Boise, Idaho, of all places. Did kind of all my high school studies there. I moved with my family, and then I decided to stay quite a bit longer on my own in the US. I did my university studies in the UK. I've been now living in London for 15 years. I've traveled quite a bit, but I'm still here.
Wow, so you're practically a Londoner by now.
Exactly.
And actually in London is where you started working with FMCGs at the big consulting firm Accenture, right?
Yeah, that's correct. I think partially because I had an international upbringing. I wanted to work in an industry that was just as international. And I think that FMCG was really the right choice for that. And London is a really good place to be at the center of that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us a bit about like how you ended up at Accenture and the type of projects you did there.
Yeah, so I think that I've been very lucky. I graduated in London and I started working at Accenture working for some of the largest multi-billion-dollar brands in the world, traveling the world, working for some personal care, beauty, food, beverage companies. At some point, I even kind of spent quite a lot of time with and seconded into one FMCG company, Unilever, where I spent a year working specifically with them as a secondee. Had a lot of fun, and I think that that was an amazing experience to see actually what it's like to work from inside a company as well. But after a year, I was kind of craving for the variety that that consulting was offering. So I went back to Accenture, and I ended up spending about 8 years in Accenture working on all things analytics, digital commerce, and business platforms.
Any specific project that you have like a very fond memory of from your time at Accenture?
Yeah. So in general, the one bit that I've tried to do the most at Accenture is working on kind of new business models, new ideas to transform the CPG or FMCG industry. And one that comes to mind is working on a B2B online marketplace for small shops.
Cool.
In Southeast Asia and in Latin America. So we built a platform that helped small shop owners in Southeast Asia and LATAM to buy their assortment and help them manage their stores. So we built this platform from scratch, and when we started, we were a small team, and within 2 years, we'd grown to I think 7 markets. We helped over a few thousands, tens of thousands of small shops, and had over a billion of GMV. So that's one that will stick with me for sure.
Yeah, no, and that's a really still a very hot topic. We've talked about it on the podcast a few times already this year. There's like digitalization of B2B. It's very interesting one. And what about conversational commerce? How did you get in touch with that, and how did that make you start your business?
Yeah, in general, the broader goal of consumer engagement and getting brands closer and closer to consumers is something that I've worked throughout my whole time, and at Accenture specifically. But I think that when the fixation with conversational commerce started is when I was working in Southeast Asia for another eB2B initiative. We spent quite a lot of time building this great platform that helped traditional stores sell and order on a eB2B app. We really spent, we did a good job building this app. And then once we launched it, we struggled to have uptake of this app as we focused on growing the uptake and usage of the app. At one point, we realized that as the numbers were growing, what was really happening is that a number of shop owners were WhatsApping their field force representative, and they were asking them, "Hey, can you log on to the app for me? Place an order. This is exactly what I want." Even giving them their username and password details. So it was actually the field force representatives that were placing the app, the order on their behalf on the app. And I think this was a good lesson for me to realize that actually there are quite a lot of barriers to engaging with consumers, but if you reach them where they are, that's exactly where it's so much easier to do businesses and to engage.
Yeah, and that applies also like to B2B. When I'm doing business development, I found that contacting people via WhatsApp is very effective, and I get a much higher reply rate than like when I cold call them, or when I cold email, or not even cold email, when I just send them a follow-up email. I do get more replies on WhatsApp. And how was it for you to start to go from that initial idea to actually go all in into starting a business? Because that takes courage.
Yeah, it was a big jump for sure, and it's a very different type of work to go from consulting to a startup. But I had a couple kind of startup-like projects within Accenture before, where I was building things of my own. And at one point, I met someone, my co-founder Mo, who had been doing quite a lot of work in conversational commerce himself. He'd done some really cool projects that are AI related. when he was working at Microsoft, and then when he set up his own agency. And it became clear that that this is a shift that will really transform the industry, and also that it wasn't as easy as it first appeared to build things and build experiences on WhatsApp. So we realized this could be something that we could really work on for a decade or so going forward, and that thought really excited me quite a lot. So we both quit and jumped into this.
No, that's awesome. Because you've done it for a while now, so it you saw a niche and you went all in it, which is sometimes what you need. Know that element of risk when you start a business. And if I can ask, how did you start? What did you start in a garage, or how were the beginnings?
Yeah, I mean, so we started. So the way we started is actually we called all of the contacts we knew in consumer goods and asked them, hey, would this be useful to you? And we spent like 2 weeks. We've done over 200 meetings like this, calling
Wow.
every single brand and kind of brand director, marketing directors, e-commerce directors that we knew, and doing research for this. And then because the response was so overwhelmingly positive on the platform, we actually we captured all of the feedbacks from that those calls, a little bit like you do with your podcasts, and we pitched them back to a VC here in London called Antler, and we said, look, there is clearly demand for this. There's a lot of big companies. Would you invest in us if we were to start doing this? So we, at this point, we still hadn't really built anything of the platform, but we just went there with this idea, and they gave us a shot.
That's awesome. So Antlers is one of your backing partners, so to speak, which is a very good one to have.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And why WhatsApp? Like, why did you decide for WhatsApp versus SMS? And what does WhatsApp offer that's different or differentiated, if you like?
Yeah, there's a number of things, and we really feel that WhatsApp is the most under monetized platform that there is in the world. It's the one, as you mentioned, that has the lowest friction, so it's the easiest for consumers to use. To give you an idea, there are over 150 billion WhatsApp messages that are sent every single day. It's the largest messaging platform in the world. And on average, and imagine that this excludes the largest country, China, that doesn't use WhatsApp. And on average, a user spends 20 hours a week on WhatsApp. It's just like they spent really a significant part of their life on the platform. But if you think about the monetization aspect of it, it's really it's not really monetized until now. And it has the highest open rates of any channel that you have. And I mean, the final thing is that's the platform where for FMCGs, the most important thing is really to identify their customers and know who they are. And on WhatsApp, you can immediately, the moment you start a conversation, know what their ID is and actually learn quite a lot about them.
Interesting. And how are FMCGs adopting conversational commerce? Like, how is it going? And are you working more with marketing, with e-commerce?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually started the business thinking that e-com would be the biggest buyer for this, but as we went on, we realized more and more that yes, e-commerce is like a big part of who we interact, but they always invite the marketing side of things, the CRM and data functions into this. And as you know, commerce is becoming more and more fluid, and the majority of consumers use multiple channels before making the final purchase. So it was really important for brands to make sure that this could be a touch point wherever the final purchase and transaction happens. So that was one big thing that we realized. On a broader scope, one thing that we realized is that in Accenture, we kept talking about how important it was to combine marketing and sales. I've heard this also in some of your podcasts, and it's an age-old question. And I think conversational commerce does require a true collaboration between e-commerce, the sales side, and the marketing functions. At the end of the day, when you speak to someone in a two-way conversation on WhatsApp, the key thing is that conversation reflects the brand that is speaking, and that really takes a big effort on the marketing front as well, not just e-commerce.
Yeah, no, interesting. And what about, like, how does it work on a day-to-day for brands? Like, I don't know if you can give us some examples of like projects that you've done with FMCG brands.
Yeah, so I think if you look at it from a consumer side, a consumer will be invited into the WhatsApp channel. Is usually considered kind of a special membership club for customers, for consumers, to make them feel special. And you join this club, and immediately you receive some sort of advice, value from the consumer, from the brand, in the form of either advice. So we work with a personal care company that immediately starts saying, okay, depending on your type of skin, depending on what your routines are, these are the products that we recommend for you. They actually do this for their own products, but more broadly in general, providing advice on the platform, sharing on WhatsApp specific pre-releases of brands and new products, and then sending personalized promotions directly to them. So based on the conversation, based on all of the information that is based on the CRM, our AI models select the right promotion to send to the right consumer, and kind of go through the purchase in a easy two-way conversation. So you can press the buy button directly on WhatsApp without actually leaving the app, if you want. And then the final element is actually having a clienteling and loyalty experience on WhatsApp. So we have a few customers that realize that for most people to log on to a site with a username and password just to find out that they don't have enough points to go and purchase what they wanted isn't the best of experience. But to just send a message on WhatsApp that says, hey, how many points do I have, or what can I redeem at this stage, and get an immediate answer with instructions or if you're one purchase away for your big price, that is a more delightful experience.
No, absolutely. It's interesting because it covers all the parts of the funnel. No? It can be like a upper funnel type of like brand awareness, brand building type of activation, to like a lower part of the funnel, like buy here, go to this shop to buy this element. And at the same time, it does have the aspect of like loyalty. I mean, I think it has like a very obvious use case for loyalty, because you can make the consumers or customers feel like they're like really engaging with the brand. And at the same time, I guess it can also be a great way to segue customers from one product into a different category and build new businesses, no?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, ultimately for us, the outcome that we're striving for is to increase the customer lifetime value for our brands, to really develop a long-term relationship with consumers. One of the most common issues that brands come to us with is that 80% of our consumers buy our product once, and then we really struggle to engage them and build a long relationship with them. So by engaging them on WhatsApp, we really make it easy for that to happen.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing for us is also the data aspect of it. So just collecting consumer insights from these conversations is really powerful for the brand, not just to fuel this one channel, but really to enrich the brand and fuel all of the other channels. One example that I have in mind is that there is one company that we work with, a personal care and beauty brand, and they boomed on TikTok. All of a sudden, they were very happy to see that they were growing, and actually 80% of their growth was coming from TikTok, but they didn't quite know who these TikTok customers were for them. So they decided to launch a specific WhatsApp club for this audience. They announced it on TikTok, and they invited all of them into this WhatsApp club. Immediately they asked them questions and opinions about products. They even gave them a choice of which one of these two packaging would you prefer, making them feel part of the brand and part of the overall experience. And then they announced a new product launch live in their store in Edinburgh, and inviting all of them for it. Obviously, not all of them could come, but this created a bit of a viral effect where all of them were inviting their friends to this WhatsApp in order to participate. And the end result for this brand really was engagement, but also learning everything about this group. They asked through these two-way conversations on WhatsApp, they found out exactly how old they were. They were actually a lot older than they expected to begin with. Their preferences, what led them to this brand, and I think that has a value that is much broader than just the conversational channel.
Yeah, totally. And what other are there any other stories of results that you've seen with customers that you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work for a large kind of fast food providers, and for them the one challenge they had was around loyalty and collecting, kind of getting consumers to use the app that they so dearly they spent 2 years creating, and it was kind of their baby, but they were really struggling to have an uptake of this app. And what we've built with WhatsApp is kind of an app-like experience that is a reduced featured experience of what they had on the app on WhatsApp, that allowed them to kind of change their details if they wanted, kind of do their CRM activities on WhatsApp, check their points, find out a few of the rewards that they could claim. But at the end, always say, by the way, if you want to have more details, if you want to see all, all of the different tiers that you could reach, tap on this button and go on the app. This, over the course of 1 month, doubled the amount of downloads of the app. And we kind of used the WhatsApp channel as a gateway drug to the actual app that they've developed. And to be honest, it wasn't one of the things we thought when we launched Merx, but it's actually becoming a key driver for customers to use WhatsApp as an introduction to the world of loyalty, to then increase the engagement on apps. And yeah, to give you a sense at the moment, of all of the messages that we sent, about 97% are opened, and 70% of the time they're engaged. So to know that you can message someone and about 70% of the time they will click a link to either download an app or to go to a site is quite powerful.
It sounds almost too good to be true, Pietro. That like these numbers are absolutely crazy. Now that I'm contacting people for a specific campaign over email, I can tell you the numbers are not close to these. Especially, replies are not that high.
No, that's true. On the other side, I think that it's important to keep in mind that WhatsApp is where we typically speak to our friends and family. So unlike email, where a brand can really send quite a lot of messages over the week, we speak with a number of brands that send a daily message to their users. WhatsApp is not a place where you can send daily messages, and it's more of a channel where you only message where there is true value to be provided to the user, and you're confident that that message is desired from the other end. So it is a different channel than, let's say, email.
Yeah, interesting, because one could think that WhatsApp you could just say anything, but you have to really be careful. Are there any other like recommendations when you go and meet like a brand owner in FMCG? Any other recommendations that you give them when they are curious about adopting conversational commerce, specifically on WhatsApp?
Yeah, the number one thing that we find is kind of not thought of enough, but most impactful, is to reflect the personality of the brand on WhatsApp. So we all are used to the experience of talking to a chatbot or so that feels a little bit rigid and does not at all resemble the carefully crafted marketing material of a company. And to be honest, this happens not just with chatbots. It happens with a lot of e-commerce, where you go into a brand Amazon site and it doesn't really reflect the marketing of that company. We found that the brands that truly make an effort, and we obviously support significantly on that front, to make the channel sound like the brand and use all of the assets that exist to make it an amplifier of the brand. That's where you have the highest engagement rates.
Ah, interesting. And yeah, also you talked about the data, which is a great way, because that's the thing. Like here you can build your brand. So you have like build your brand. So that's like what you bring outside, build your brand, sell more. And the data, any like interesting data points. You've said some before that you think are unique to like what you can get on WhatsApp. You talked about like the TikTok example. Any other ways your clients are using WhatsApp to get data?
Yeah, I think that over time, data is probably for FMCG specifically. I think conversational commerce is going to be the data aspect is going to be really the biggest driver of conversational commerce. And again, because you are already logged on to WhatsApp, it's a great place to get zero-party data and first-party data. So without really even asking for any information, just collecting all of the questions that come from WhatsApp is usually the most interesting aspect of my work when we onboard a new brand, because you start with an idea of what consumers are going to ask for, and usually 1 month later you realize the biggest pain points from the consumers are not what you thought they were, and there are all sorts of questions around the product, around the whole purchasing experience that emerge from that from that aspect. So I think that for that, conversational commerce is really great, because you just give an avenue for consumers to just speak their mind and say what they want to you directly. But also, this can be a more structured approach of whenever we onboard and have a GDPR compliant opt-in to the WhatsApp groups. We typically find that asking a few questions is good, because they're already there. They know they want to sign up. So those questions can be very helpful to find out exactly who your consumers are. And we've even had a few brands to use this data to then create audiences to retarget by media buying. So I think there is a full loop effect that can be done with the data gathered on conversational commerce.
Yeah, and even like for the own conversation on WhatsApp, that data can also have the potential to tilt it in one direction or another.
Yeah.
Right now or in the future, no?
Yeah, absolutely. Even product development can be interesting. So there's a few. This is obviously a longer term thing for companies, but there is some really interesting product feedbacks that arrive through our platform that make WhatsApp an interesting channel, because it opens the floodgates to all sorts of comments, but actually can be channeled to product development in a way that leads to much better products and a faster feedback loop.
Yeah, and we talked all marketing, e-commerce, and so on, but it can also be a great tool for insights, for the insights department, for instance, no?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's that's great for conversational commerce. Sometimes this leads to a longer sales cycle from us, because there's many people that want to involve on the brand side. But absolutely, that's true.
Sometimes you have to start small to then go big. No, you can't like sell it to every department at once. That sometimes overcomplicates things.
You're right. You were asking about the differences between big enterprise and startup, and I think that's exactly that. You have to really focus when you develop something new.
Yeah, we know that well. And you mentioned at the beginning that you use customized Gen AI models to interact with on WhatsApp with the consumers and so on. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And we can later also speak about like the potential of AI.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is the most exciting part for us. We really think that AI is going to change a lot of things for FMCG in the next few years. When it comes to conversational commerce, we're using AI in a couple of ways. One is to really reflect the brand that we onboard on the conversational channel. So whenever a consumer receives a response from the brand. We actually use Gen AI to have our own agent learn from all of the marketing materials, the CRM, the PIM, and other systems of the brand, and respond with correct, relevant details that are valuable to the consumers, but also do it in a tone that reflects the brand. As I mentioned before, I think that this is a really important factor, and we all know already the annoyance of reading something that feels like it was written by ChatGPT. So that's our number one kind of a thing that we're focusing on when we deploy WhatsApp. The other element is actually using Gen AI to create full campaigns on WhatsApp, which I think is an area that is going to become bigger and bigger. So using it from a marketeer aspect, entering a prompt to say, I'm developing a campaign for this audience with this value in mind for them, and this is the objective of the campaign. And our platform kind of provides a few options and suggestions to build it, creating a flow based on everything we've learned across our platform. I think that side of our AI platform is going to grow and grow because it's WhatsApp is such a new channel for so many of our customers that to have an agent that helps you develop a campaign on a new channel is really helpful.
How do you personally see the potential of AI on the whole like consumer goods industry? I know it's a very broad question.
Yeah, I think this element is super exciting. At the moment, all of the focus that I see, and because we often get invited by FMCG brands that are looking into AI projects, we hear quite a lot about what they're doing, and most of the activities that we see now are around cost reduction. So obviously, kind of customer service, cost reduction, ad production. Specifically, I was actually just talking to a large group brand director that was telling me that they had a budget of 100K for a new asset they wanted to develop for a campaign, and they tested kind of going full force on AI to replicate that without using an agency, and they spent 20K for the same. So actually, not just asking DALI to create something, but to have a bit of post-production using a lot of different softwares for it, but still ending up at a fifth of the cost at what the initial budget would have been. The asset performed really, really well. And one thing that I found interesting is that they did kind of a Turing test internally, asking you, can you spot which one of these assets is Gen AI created? And the most people couldn't really identify the right one.
Wow.
But that kind of on the short term. I think on the long term, the one thing that is really exciting for me is leveraging AI to build new products and kind of new brands. We're not there yet, but I think that within the next 5 years, there will be a huge rise in the number of brands. Gen AI is kind of a deflationary force. So the cost of developing and creating a new brand will reduce quite a bit. So if you're a big FMCG brands that wants to focus on a niche audience, or even a creator that already has a niche audience, it'll be a lot easier to develop a new brand that targets that niche, test things, build a community around it, and hopefully use conversational commerce to engage with them too.
Interesting. So it would be interesting to see like what's the split of power between that AI created ideas, if you like, and like people created creativity,
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's a big topic. I think that there will still be a it'll still be important to anchor around people, but for people to create things, it will be a lot easier in the future. So it's going to be an exciting time for brands.
Yeah, definitely. And it will be interesting to see like the split also, like how many brands come out of big corporates versus entrepreneur-led brands. Because in the last few years, we haven't seen corporates be able to like innovate much or create any many new like $1 billion brands, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. Especially on the creator front, I think there is a very interesting dynamic here where if you can find your niche audience and cater to them, it's a lot easier to develop a brand.
Yeah, totally. And Pietro, as a listener to the podcast, you'll know we have this one question we ask all our guests, which is in your career, you've been at Accenture, so you've seen a lot of companies, how they work, you've done many projects. Now you're an entrepreneur. With all this experience, if you had to go back to your younger self in Boise, Idaho, what would be that one piece of career advice you would give yourself?
Yeah, I think that the advice I would give myself is don't be afraid to specialize. Go deep into things. You can always find a way to broaden your horizons later, or at least connect the dots to other topics. When I look back, I remember always being afraid to go to really specialize, feeling like maybe I will be left in a specific box. But actually, every time I went deep into things, that opened doors to new, different opportunities. So it's a slightly counterintuitive thing, but I think that's the one I would go for.
Yeah, I love it. And also, if you really specialize, that path towards entrepreneurship in some ways is more logical as well. If I
Yeah,
can,
absolutely.
if I can add to it. So Pietro, I'm gonna try to summarize what we've gone through because we've gone through a lot. I found very interesting that you grew up, even if you're Italian, you grew up in Boise, Idaho, out of all places. Hello to our friends at Albertsons, which is headquartered there in the US. And now living in London for 15 years, which is a long time. So you're practically a Londoner by now. Yeah, I found it interesting how through working at a consulting company like Accenture, you were exposed to like a lot of FMCG companies and that you were able to see like a lot of like new business models and ideas to transform the industry. Interesting also that you worked on one of the hot topics that we're still talking about this day, which is B2B, um, digital B2B capability. So that was very interesting. Maybe you should start a business in that as well, Pietro. And that you saw that people, even if they'd set up their B2B platform, they were ultimately using WhatsApp and how that's how you discovered the potential. Biggest chat network, 150 billion messages a day, but it's really under-monetized. It has low friction and easy for consumers to use. And it's true because even like very old people are using WhatsApp, right? So it just tells very old and very young. It hasn't lost its cool either. And yeah, so many use cases for FMCGs, no? Like from, we talked about upper funnel, lower funnel, new customer acquisition, a lot on loyalty. So really seeing that as a full funnel proposition to increase customer long-term value and really like going back to the beginning, building that relationship from brands to consumers. And let's not forget getting all that data from them. No, and I mean with 97% open and 70% engaged messages, not too bad. And also not as necessarily a final destination, which is also very valid, but also as a way to like get them to engage, for example, on apps. But all that we have to do being in a genuine manner as a brand. So really like reflecting the brand personality on WhatsApp. I think that authenticity is like a very highly valued currency. So let's keep that in mind as well. And finally, yeah, all the use cases of AI, very clear. So like using AI to like reflect the brand or to create full campaigns through prompts. And also we'll probably see more and more AI use cases. Peter said he thinks that brands will be created leveraging AI. So will be very interesting to see how where all that brings us. Hope I was able to summarize that properly. Pietro, I don't know if there's any final remarks that I missed on.
No, that's amazing. I should, if you want to join Merx, you'll be a great salesperson for us.
Hey, always happy to entertain potential offers. So I'll take that as a compliment. Thanks, Pietro, so much for coming to the podcast. It was very interesting to learn about WhatsApp use cases and also looking forward to partnering in the future, in the present and future.
Great. Thanks, Daniel.
And thanks to all our audience for tuning in. Remember, you can find us every Wednesday and every Saturday at 7:30 o'clock Central European time, 7:30 in the morning. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next episode.